per usual, I'm a bit late to the game. Everyone and their brother has already made videos regarding the non-version of Ayaan Hirsi Ali. I say non-version because there's nothing in her confession of faith, in her conversion story, which suggests anything but political strategizing. There's simply no faith to be found there. This is what happens when you deconstruct your religion, but not your politics. I'm expecting Pine Creek Doug to announce his conversion to Islam any day now. Quote, Western civilization is under threat from three different but related forces. The resurgence of great power authoritarianism and expansionism in the forms of the Chinese Communist Party and Vladimir Putin's Russia. The rise of global Islamism, which threatens to mobilize a vast population against the West. And the viral spread of woke ideology, which is eating into the moral fiber of the next generation. Now, I'm concerned about the threats to Western civilization as well, although I spell civilization correctly. And as a fellow concerned citizen of Western Civ and the world more broadly, I have some questions for our new Christian friend. First of all, I'm assuming that we're speaking of the same Western civilization, right? The Western civilization birthed by the thinking and principles of the Enlightenment? The Western civilization which values, among other things, multiracial democracy, freedom of the press, religious pluralism, secularism, and the separation of church and state, science, equality, justice, freedom of speech, etc. The principles of Western democracies which are nowhere found in the Christian Bible, that Western civ? In this regard, I'm wondering, Ayaan, how in Hitchin's holy name are you worried about the threat posed by the woke, but not the threat posed by the white Christian nationalism embraced by the MAGA crowd here in America? I don't remember seeing anything about that in your essay, but maybe I just missed it? I don't know. One of those threats has teeth, though, and those teeth have already been chomping away at the core of democracy here in the States for quite some time now. How are you not far more concerned, Ayaan, with the mob of MAGA white Christian nationalists who violently stormed the U.S. Capitol a few years ago, attempting to stop the certification of a free and fair election here in America? They did this at the behest and approval of their authoritarian leader, who at every turn praises the very same authoritarian leaders about whom you and I both seem to be concerned. Is this not a far greater threat to Western civilization than pronouns? Or are children learning their actual history, the history of their country, warts and all? Are you aware of the successful and attempted banning of books here in the States? Do you know these folks have banned books about Rosa Parks and don't want our kids knowing about Ruby Bridges, the little girl who needed to be escorted to elementary school by U.S. Marshals after the Supreme Court struck down separate but equal segregation? These white Christian nationalists also want to do away with the separation of church and state.
The church is supposed to direct the government, and I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
Hell, they want to do away with our three equal branches of government as enshrined in our Constitution. They prefer a virtual monarchy instead. They even have a manifesto and a plan to do this should they win in 2024. Take a look at Project 2025 from the Heritage Foundation. And speaking of our Supreme Court, which is now dominated by Christian nationalist types, they've now taken away a woman's right to bodily sovereignty. You know quite a bit about that. Is that just okay with you now? They've made discrimination against the LGBTQ+ communities legal. They've allowed coaches to pray with their students and government funds to be redirected to Christian schools. Is this not the greater threat? Or is this something to be praised now that you're a Christian? And please don't think this is just an American thing. These white Christian nationalists are frequently embracing the authoritarians you rightly point to as dangerous to the world order. They welcomed Hungarian demagogue Viktor Orban to CPAC in 2022, just right after he railed against Europe for becoming a mixed-race society. Is that okay with you? You know who else loves Viktor Orban? the leader of this white Christian nationalist movement here in America, the guy who wants to suspend our Constitution, the self-admitted, now convicted serial sex offender supported by Christians, the former president who shared video of a white guy driving around yelling white power.
Yeah, you got it, you! White power! White power!
The guy who proudly takes credit for 12-year-old girls having to leave their state to get an abortion, so they don't have to carry their stepfather's baby to term. Again, this seems to be the greater threat. No? Oh, and now, even when we do have elections and these white Christian nationalists lose overwhelmingly, they just tell the population they can go F themselves, vowing to fight the will of the people for as long as it takes. See Ohio. #threat. I could go on and on and on with examples of your new Christian friends and their attempts to destroy what I think of as Western civilization. Every one of them seeming to me a greater threat than some guy dressed in women's clothing reading to children at a public library. But maybe I'm just too woke. Once again, I'm me. Thanks for watching.